In the town of Tristram, the entrance to hell appears as a blood-red crevice in the earth behind Pepin's clinic, and upon entering it, we exclaim,
"I must be getting close."
as we witness the bone architecture and gore of poor adventurers and villagers before us, strewn about in a decorative fashion, no doubt to the liking of the Lord of Terror himself. Upon exploring the level, we're descended upon by a pack of deadly doom guards, which we dispose of through great effort as they are engulfed in a ball of flame. It's then we attempt to head down to level 14 and a step closer to the Lord of Terror himself. But see, our path is blocked. Surrounded by the great bone staircase is a thorny room adorned with a plethora of weapons and armors. Unable to find a way inside, we continue our search for an alternate route. Feeling our way through the hellish nightmare, we happen upon a gut-wrenching sight. More bodies impaled on spikes by 2 burning crucifixes, and in the middle, a lone tome sits upon a pedestal. We attempt to read the cover that is inscribed as the Steel Tome, as a massive Balrog creeps its way through the darkness before we're forced to eviscerate its corpse.
The armories of hell are home to the Warlord of Blood. In his wake lay the mutilated bodies of thousands. Angels and man alike have been cut down to fulfill his endless sacrifices to the Dark Ones, who scream for one thing: blood.
It's then we hear in the distance the sound of a door unlocking and instinctually know the Warlord lays in wait, inviting us to his armory of hell. We resolve to stop the bloody sacrifices and portal back to town to learn of any information on this Warlord of Blood and pray for safe passage into the bowels of hell itself, if such a thing is possible. Back in town, we then see the witch Adria by her hut, who forebodes.
His prowess with the blade is awesome, and he has lived for thousands of years knowing only warfare. I am sorry, I cannot see if you will defeat him.
What a grim assessment. Heaven only knows how powerful a warlord would become over 1,000 years of conflict. We then see the resident armorer, Griswold the blacksmith, about our chances, but he warns.
Dark and wicked legend surrounds the one Warlord of Blood. Be well prepared, my friend, for he shows no mercy or quarter.
Well, thanks to Griswold, at least we have an edge. We then search for Farnham the Drunk by his usual rock, but curiously, he's nowhere to be found. So instead, we seek out Pepin the Healer, who redirects.
Cain would be able to tell you much more about something like this than I would ever wish to know.
It's then we pass Wirt's tree and also see the boy has moved, so instead we speak to Gillian the barmaid out front of her grandmother's hut.
If you are to battle such a fierce opponent, may light be your guide and your defender. I will keep you in my thoughts.
We thank Gillian and then turn to see Wirt the peg-legged merchant by a new tree, who admits,
I haven't ever dealt with this warlord you speak of, but he sounds like he's going through a lot of swords. Wouldn't mind supplying his armies.
Thanks, Wirt. The fate of Tristram hangs in the balance, and you'd supply the enemy. That's patriotism for you. Over by his inn, we speak to Ogden, the innkeeper, who says,
I'm afraid that I haven't heard anything about such a vicious warrior, good master. I hope that you do not have to fight him, for he sounds extremely dangerous.
Well, he's right about one thing. We're not looking forward to fighting him. Next, we see Farnham the Drunk plopped against the side of the inn by the path out of town and realize the residents have moved due to the crack to hell opening in close proximity to the sleepy hamlet. And who can blame them? However, Farnham seems in a rather optimistic, albeit inebriated mood, questioning,
Always you gotta talk about blood. What about flowers and sunshine? And that pretty girl that brings the drinks. Listen here, friend. You're obsessive, you know that?
I'm sure Gillian appreciates your ogling, Farnham, but he is right. Flowers and sunshine could be a metaphor for optimism, which is all but snuffed out thanks to Diablo's stranglehold. Lastly, we realize our only hope to bring the light back to Tristram may be in the Warlord's backstory, so we speak next to Cain the Elder by his familiar well, who instructs.
I know of only one legend that speaks of such a warrior as you describe. His story is found within the ancient chronicles of the Sin War. Stained by 1,000 years of war, blood, and death, the Warlord of Blood stands upon a mountain of his tattered victims. His dark blade screams a black curse to the living, a tortured invitation to any who would stand before this executioner of hell. It is also written that although he was once a mortal who fought beside the Legion of Darkness during the Sin War, he lost his humanity to his insatiable hunger for blood.
Our only consoling thought is that he was once mortal, and therefore he surely can perish once more. Back down on level 14, possessed lava moors block our path to the Warlord's domain. Enchanted with cold, they explode in plumes of frost, and we are nearly rendered frozen by the spell. Any more potential ambushes, we head north up the western arm of the bone-laden maze. There we encounter a vast room full of dead adventurers and piles of gold. This must be the mountain of bodies that Cain spoke of. Atop it sits a single Doomguard, but he is not alone. A trap springs as his champion comrades file in to surround us, spraying wicked licks of lightning as they fall with a final frightening farewell. Victorious, we take a moment to recuperate, picking up the treasures, no doubt invaluable to our fight to come, but realize none of these hellish knights were the Warlord of Blood himself. Heading back to the armory, a Steel Lord rushes to face us as we bolster ourselves to contend with his companion. And remember our stone curse from the Chamber of Bone, and cast it and use all our might to hack at the stony foe. However, due to his now solid countenance, it comes at the cost of precious endurance.
Time to die.
Weakened, it's then the Warlord of Blood himself appears from the shadows.
My blade sings for your blood, mortal.
We're now heavily fatigued and race backwards to desperately find a vantage point. We then realize we must contend with his army of Steel Lords one by one if we stand any chance at success, lest we're overwhelmed. A messy and harrowing fight, we fell the remainder of Steel Lords and land successful blow after blow against the Warlord of Blood, who, regardless, presses his attack with his mighty strength, pushing us back to the northeastern side of his armory. We dig our heels into the ground and drive Griswold's edge into his breastplate, proclaiming,
Your reign of pain has ended.
With that, we've finished the execution of 1,000-year bloody reign of terror. Learning from the treachery of the past, we cautiously move through the room, collecting weapons and armor for the battle against the Hells once more, as the penultimate level 15 is now open for us to explore, bringing us one step closer to the treacherous Archbishop Lazarus and the Lord of Terror himself, Diablo, in the bowels of hell.
Farnham is often confused, but he speaks a powerful name when the word Izual passes his lips. Cain would be able to tell you in much greater detail the legend of this warrior.
The original wicked tale of Izual can be started once the player has entered level 15 of the Burning Hells and travels back to town. At this point, you can approach Jillian the barmaid, and she says,
Pray your pardon, but I have something to tell you that you may find interesting. It was the strangest thing. While drinking at the tavern, Farnham was rambling about something called Azurath. He also said something about a fallen angel. It was hard to understand him because he was very drunk and disoriented, but I seem to remember something about a key in a barrel. He also kept covering his face and repeating the word Izual over and over again.
What a confusing bunch of clues we're given. Farnham supposedly talks about something called Azurath, a fallen angel, and a key in a barrel, which may be pivotal to solving this mystery, and all the while, he was supposedly covering his face. Curious about the new quest the dialogue is initiated called Izual, the Fallen Angel, we head to Farnham to hopefully decipher these clues.
Did you ever hear the one of the cane tails? I love that one.
Thank you, Farnham. No mention of barrels and keys, angels or azure wrath, just drunken and giggling. So we saunter over to our only solid lead thus far, the town scholar Deckard Cain.
Farnham has taken to drinking quite heavily since his encounters in the labyrinth. But within the ramblings of this drunken man rests a legend well steeped in myth and mystery. Sit for a moment, my friend, and let me tell you of Izual and Azure-Wrath. The saga of Izual takes place during the lost battles in Hell. Izual was an angel who was given charge of the Holy Rune Blade, Azure-Wrath. Leading a daring assault on the Hell Forge, Izual was set upon by hundreds of blackened demons and was fatally wounded. The fiends cast the dying angel into a dark pit where the powers of chaos transformed him as he drowned in a whirlpool of burning blood. Evil possessed Izual. The feathers of his wings burned away to reveal leathery skin, and horns ripped through the flesh of his head. When he finally arose from that black pit, Izual was an angel no more. Transformed into a creature of evil, he was once again given charge of Azure-Wrath, assuring that the blade would never again be used against the denizens of Hell.
What an unbelievably wicked tale to take Demon's Bane Azure-Wrath from the angel Izual, cast him into the abyss, having his wings burned away as he's consumed by a new demonic form, and wickedly making sure that Azure-Wrath is only used to protect evil and never against the Hell's forces themselves. If I may make a quick aside, as the character and his blade are of course legendary in the series, and show off the infamous concept art of Chris Metzen, showing this hellish scene taking place. Notably, as mentioned by Cain, angels in Diablo 1 still had feathery wings and visible flesh versus their light counterparts, which were revised later. Speaking of weapons, we should see what the town blacksmith Griswold has to say on the fate of Azure-Wrath.
The blade Azure-Wrath! Ugh, it's legend! It was cast by the angelic weaponsmith Synodid and tempered within the fires of judgment. Whoever wields this weapon will find the legions of hell at his feet. If you found this blade, I would begin to truly believe that you could end the nightmare that has befallen our town.
It's clear this coveted weapon of the high heavens should never have fallen into the demon's hands, and we can only lament its devious repurposing. It's also quite amazing the blade is famous enough for most of the townsfolk to be aware of it. So, as we leave the well, we see Ogden, the innkeeper, and if he has further knowledge of the sword.
There is an old story of an angel named Izual, but I don't remember much more than that.
Although not much is gained, it's clear that this is a shared fable in Tristram, and so we head to Wirt, who says,
If you were to find any trace of Izual or the blade Azure-Wrath, even I would be impressed. That is definitely one of a kind.
Even Wirt seems to revere this blade versus his less than stellar reaction to Shadowfang, its seemingly dark counterpart. As we have learned what we can, all that is left is to head to Adria the Witch, second to only Cain in terms of knowledge of the high heavens and burning hells.
The once proud Izual is trapped deep beneath the surface of this world. His honor stripped and his visage altered, he is trapped in immortal torment, charged to conceal the very thing that could free him.
What a cruel fate to be put in charge of a holy weapon by the high heavens, be torn apart by demonic legions, and remade in a pool of blood in the abyss. Izual himself trapped in a demonic unholy form, and to add insult to injury, to be put in charge of said weapon again, with the opposite intent. Heading down to level 15, we search for this mysterious room Farnham spoke of, left to contend with hordes of snow witches firing torrents of blue cold bolts at us and dastardly Kabbalists whirring wicked licks of lightning in chains before promptly teleporting to safer ground. A maddening affair for a warrior whose only way to breach the distance is to trudge at them one by one. But finally, we come across the fabled room full of barrels. As we use a lightning spell to open the barrels and they explode in unison, no keys are found. So, with that, we head back to town in search of clues from the source, Jillian.
You know, now that I think about it, maybe it wasn't a key in a barrel, but a barrel that was the key. Does that make any more sense?
So the barrels are the key, underneath which all there is a pad that looks like some type of warp point. Out of ideas again, we teleport back to town. However, like the Butcher's Chamber, this too must have been a clue, and an eerie crimson portal leading to the Temple of the Damned opens, and it makes sense that the barrels were shaped themselves like a portal and hiding the pedestal underneath. In this green-floored dimension, we are immediately set upon Blood Knights and Doomsayers with overwhelming frost attacks, and we make a hasty retreat as soon as we thaw and start using the walls as cover to thin the herd, lest we be hacked down as a warrior-sized ice cube. After clearing the room, we spy a pedestal where it's clear we must insert some kind of key or unlock it somehow. First, heading to the northwest room, we're met by a unique Blood Knight named Catalan Lefares the Destroyer, boasting abilities of being extra strong and a nasty charge with fire enchantment. He nearly drops us in one hit, and we're only able to just hack through his defenses with our own nasty stun lock against the wall, thanks to the cleave ability. After which we find a switch in the furthest room and head south to find its assumed second counterpart in the rooms below. It's then we are promptly ambushed by a group of Doomsayers, a move which is cold even for them. Swathing a path through the remainder of the pack, we unlock the second switch and a door opens above us. It's here we're forced to face the Overlord, Archrector Repeshag, a demon clearly well versed in the art of fire conjuration. Only by using the bone-built walls and utilizing a vantage point do we quickly burn him down before his brethren have a chance to fell us. Upon defeat, he will drop the temple's keystone, and as well a much-needed tower shield named Bonewing, which boasts enhanced defenses, plus 40% to cold resist, thank you, and plus 9 to vitality. After re-prepping our gear and supplies, we take the temple's keystone and place it on the grim pedestal.
How much suffering, mortal, does it take before you lose your grace? Let me show you.
With a macabre line about his fall, Izual opens his barrage of attacks with a deadly circle of cold, which is, of course, later his trademark. Although we are further protected from cold, it's not enough to save us from being slowed, and Izual, in his demonic form, viciously pounces on us while we're vulnerable, hammering down our defenses with ease as we thirstily gulp potion after potion, trying to stave off his ferocious assault. Juggling the onslaught of cold, potion management, and utilizing skills to burn down Izual's own defenses, we finally fell this foul demon.
Turn to heaven, warrior of light.
Although the victory is bittersweet, Aiden remarks about his soul being freed of this ghastly demonic vessel. However, as we know, that isn't the case. But before we discuss this, and we check his body for loot, and of course, one piece is a very unique sword. Rushing back to town, we seek out Deckard Cain to identify our bounty, especially this curious, unusable rapier.
Hello, my friend. Stay a while and listen.
Identifying the sword, it turns out, of course, to be Azurath, having plus 10 to all attributes, a plus 35% chance to hit. Cold hit damage is a whopping plus 8 to 20, plus 25 increased attack speed, and minus 40% requirements so that we can use it straight away, plus 50 damage to undead, which no doubt specifically was imbued upon its creation, and as a weapon of the high heavens, a 5% chance to cast Holy Bolt on striking. What a remarkable blade, fit for any agent of light, and freezing enemies where they stand. Of course, this blade does make an appearance in the sequels, and Izual himself does too. However, this story does take a darker turn, as he is still a fallen angel in Diablo 2, trapped in demonic form. And we learn his canon backstory of how he betrayed the high heavens upon his capture and was instrumental to the primevals corrupting the soul stones.
Tyrael was a fool to have trusted me. You see, it was I who told Diablo and his brothers about the soul stones and how to corrupt them. It was I who helped the primevals mastermind their own exile to your world. The plan we set in motion so long ago cannot be stopped by any mortal agency. Hell itself is poised to spill forth into your world like a tidal wave of blood and nightmares. You and all your kind are doomed.
Another tidbit I found fascinating about Izual that we learned later horrifically is that unlike a normal angel that when they perish they will reform in the high heavens as a new angelic being, Izual is now technically a demon, and when he is perished in Diablo 2, he will just come back as a demon in Diablo 3, something unprecedented, though it is of course a characteristic trait of demons themselves, hence why the primevals can resurrect. Tyrael himself actually has a somewhat similar trademark, as he is the only angel to have reformed when he died destroying the World Stone instead of dissipating and reforming as a new angel. So it seems that even though Izual was one of his own trusted lieutenants in the past, they are bonded by this regeneration, which is very unique to both of them. But that is a story for another time. After our harrowing battle with the ex-angel Izual, we find our companion, the rogue Morena, in town, who instructs that while we recuperate, she will take the lead by further investigating the crack to hell anomaly that is opened behind Pepin's infirmary. Venturing deep into the bone and gore-strewn level 14 of the Burning Hells, and after fighting through what feels like scores of Blood Knights, and a particularly nasty nest of fire drakes, we happen upon a curiosity. One Blood Knight stays steadfast and does not lift his blade as we slay his brethren. His name appears to be Lachdanan, and for all accounts, we cannot attack him. So instead, we approach him, and he says,
"Please, don't kill me. Just hear me out. I was once captain of King Leoric's knights, upholding the laws of this land with justice and honor. Then his dark curse fell upon us for the role we played in his tragic death. As my fellow knights succumbed to their twisted fate, I fled from the king's burial chamber, searching for some way to free myself from the curse. I failed. I have heard of a golden elixir that could lift the curse and allow my soul to rest, but I have been unable to find it. My strength now wanes, and with it, the last of my humanity as well. Please aid me and find the elixir. I will repay your efforts. I swear upon my honor."
What a cruel fate that has befallen those loyal to Leoric. Lachdanan has tragically informed us that he was one of King Leoric's royal guard, but as Diablo corrupted the king, he cursed the knights to serve the Lord of Terror in darkness for eternity. All the royal guards turned into evil mockeries of their former selves, save one, Lachdanan. Leoric, since slain, rose anew as the undead Skeleton King, which we encountered earlier and ultimately killed ourselves in his second undead form, so he may be laid to rest. As a side note, although not yet canon in Diablo 1, it is later recognized that it was indeed the warrior Aiden's father, making slaying him a darker turn for the overall tragedy.
Rest well, Leoric.
I'll find your son.
What inner strength the just and loyal Lachdanan must possess to have retained some semblance of his sanity where his former comrades could not, twisted and turned into these Blood Knight aberrations. To attempt to help free Lachdanan of his curse, as he could not himself, searching the rest of level 14 to no avail, we venture back to town through a portal to learn what we can of this strange yellow elixir he mentioned and hopefully get some further insight from the townsfolk on how to obtain it, so he finally may be free. As we enter town, we first happen upon Ogden, who may have insight into the night as he was a fixture during Leoric's reign.
Greetings, good master. Welcome to the Tavern of the Rising Sun. You speak of a brave warrior long dead. I'll have no such talk of speaking with departed souls in my inn yard, thank you very much.
Clearly a sore subject for Ogden, either due to his fear of demonic ilk or past reverence for the memory of his fallen king and his subjects. So we instead turn our attention to Jillian, the barmaid. Hopefully a rumour or whisper of the elixir has met her ears.
Good day. How may I serve you? I've never heard of a Lachdanan before. Sorry, but I don't think that I can be of much help to you.
With nothing of note to add from Jillian, Pepin the town healer stands a door down and hopefully we will have more insight into this strange elixir's properties.
What ails you, my friend? A golden elixir, you say? I have never concocted a potion of that color before, so I can't tell you how it would affect you if you were to try to drink it. As your healer, I strongly advise that should you find such an elixir, do as Lachdanan asks and do not try to use it.
Feeling not much closer to an answer but getting somewhere, an expert on imbibing dangerous elixirs, although admittedly a long shot, we sauntered down to Farnham the Drunk's drinking spot where he's plopped himself in front of a nice rock at the south of town.
Can't a fellow drink in peace? Lachdanan is dead. Everybody knows that, and you can't fool me into thinking any other way. You can't talk to the dead. I know.
Humorously, we can only guess in what way Farnham has attempted to talk to the dead. Perhaps Farnham is right though, and we need to aim our sights on the living, but also one that is well versed in dead arts and forbidden knowledge. We head to the center of town to Deckard Cain in search of more grounded wisdom.
Hello, my friend. Stay a while and listen. You claim to have spoken with Lachdanan? He was a great hero during his life. Lachdanan was an honorable and just man who served his king faithfully for years. But of course you already know that. For those who were caught within the grasp of the king's curse, Lachdanan would be the least likely to submit to the darkness without a fight. So I suppose that your story could be true. If I were in your place, my friend, I would find a way to release him from his torture.
Cain, although imparting the most useful wisdom for us, muses our claims of meeting believed long-dead Lachdanan sketchy at best. But what would we gain from lying about a fallen knight? Although he does hold him in reverence and urges us to help him, maybe we can have a more grounded solution with the town blacksmith Griswold.
Well, what can I do for you? If it is actually Lachdanan that you've met, then I would advise that you aid him. I dealt with him on several occasions and found him to be honest and loyal in nature. The curse that fell upon the followers of King Leoric would fall especially hard upon him.
Although Griswold doesn't guide us in terms of an elixir, the general consensus in town is he was a good man and the townsfolk fervently agree we should help him if we can. Perhaps we can call on the darker arts, and so we stop by Adria's shack in search of answers.
I sense a soul in search of answers. You may meet people who are trapped within the labyrinth, such as Lachdanan. I sense in him honor and great guilt. Aid him, and you aid all of Tristram.
With that, scrounging for clues, our last desperate gambit for help is heading back to Wirt, the fork-tongued peg-leg boy, for any kind of lead or maybe a weapon to aid us.
Psst, over here. Wait, let me guess. Cain was swallowed up in a gigantic fissure that opened beneath him. He was incinerated in a ball of hellfire and can't answer your questions anymore. Oh, that isn't what happened? Then I guess you'll be buying something, or you'll be on your way.
Although having some choice words and expensive items is no more help, so we stock up in town and head back through the portal for the elusive elixir. Having scoured level 14 to no avail, we speak to Lachdanan once more.
You have not found the golden elixir. I fear that I am doomed for eternity. Please, keep trying.
Hesitantly, we surmise it seems we will be forced to venture deeper into the burning hells for the mysterious potion we seek. Down to level 15, the setting marred with bone and hellfire alike. We tepidly clear room by room, chock full of azure drakes, and now peppered with torrents of succubi variants, flinging dark magic from every direction. In our search, we stumble into a particularly nasty sub-boss, aptly named Bloodlust, especially when she's aided by her sisters or if you're rushed by drakes while trying to dodge a barrage of magic missiles. Forced to backtrack, letting a stream of arrows loose with a steady thrum of our bow, we finally fell Bloodlust and collect a nice field plate off her corpse. After felling countless enemies, we pass a peculiar pentagram marking Lazarus's portal in the main quest, and in the next room we spy the golden elixir, barely visible but accompanied by a flagpost or corpse unceremoniously impaled sideways on a spear next to a rather angry azure drake guard.
I need to get this to Lachdanan.
Absconding with the potion, we hurry back to Lachdanan, hoping that he has endured in our absence.
You have saved my soul from damnation, and for that, I am in your debt. If there is ever a way that I can repay you from beyond the grave, I will find it. But for now, take my helm. On the journey I'm about to take, I will have little use for it. May it protect you against the dark powers below. Go with the light, my friend.
And with that, Lachdanan is freed from his undead coil and dies horrifically in front of our eyes, no longer bound to his demonic form, and as promised, rewards us with a helm dropped as he perishes called the Veil of Steel. Anxious to see the new helm's properties and depart hell, we portal back to town. Upon closer inspection, we find the Veil of Steel has a penalty of -30 to mana, making it maybe less appealing for a mage. However, it is arguably one of the most useful unique helms for any character, especially warriors who can afford the mana penalty. It increases both strength and vitality highly and is noted for being the only helm and armor holding a 50% to all resistances, along with augmented base armor class, as well as a bonus to the formerly mentioned, and the only great helm requiring no strength to be equipped. Unfortunately, and maybe a tongue-in-cheek reference, Lachdanan's last words to us are, "Go with the light, my friend." And the helm has -20 to light radius. With Lachdanan's soul freed, we can rest easier knowing we have at least aided the light in some small manner for now. But the burning hells call us, and Lazarus, the bastard Archbishop, is still afoot. So we head into the burning hells once more. But this is not the end of Lachdanan's tale, and part 2 of this video will cover actually seeing the events between Lachdanan and King Leoric as the story is furthered in the main questline of Diablo 3. Thanks again for watching. Let me know what you'd like me to cover in the future videos between the next Lachdanan tale, and until next time, Traveler. In level 16 of Hell, we battle through the serpentine azure drakes and see what can only be described as an unholy display. Human bodies spiked on spears in various contorted states, surrounded by a single staff on a rack, and realize this must be the staff of the betrayer, Lazarus himself. Killing a final stealth drake that tries in vain to protect the artifact, we portal back to town, staff in hand, and race to the town elder, Deckard Cain, hoping he can help unlock its secrets and turn the tide of war. It's then he finally reveals his true nature, confiding,
"This does not bode well, for it confirms my darkest fears. While I did not allow myself to believe the ancient legends, I cannot deny them now. Perhaps the time has come to reveal who I am. My true name is Deckard Cain, the Elder, and I am the last descendant of an ancient brotherhood that was dedicated to safeguarding the secrets of a timeless evil, an evil that quite obviously has now been released. The Archbishop Lazarus, once King Leoric's most trusted advisor, led a party of simple townsfolk into the labyrinth to find the king's missing son, Albrecht. Quite some time passed before they returned, and only a few of them escaped with their lives. Curse me for a fool! I should have suspected his veiled treachery then. It must have been Lazarus himself who kidnapped Albrecht and has since hidden him within the labyrinth. I do not understand why the Archbishop turned to the darkness, or what his interest is in the child, unless he means to sacrifice him to his dark masters. That must be what he has planned. The survivors of his rescue party say that Lazarus was last seen running into the deepest bowels of the labyrinth. You must hurry and save the prince from the sacrificial blade of this demented fiend."
Utterly shocked by the revelation, we resolve to save our brother Albrecht from Lazarus' sacrificial blade before it's too late. We turn then and ask Griswold about Lazarus' last known location, and he shares.
I was there when Lazarus led us into the labyrinth. He spoke of holy retribution, but when we started fighting those hellspawn, he did not so much as lift his mace against them. He just ran deeper into the dim, endless chambers that were filled with the servants of darkness.
So, he's deep inside some chambers we're yet to discover. We know that Wirt, the peg-legged boy, was himself dragged from the labyrinth thanks to the bravery of Griswold and some other townsfolk, and ask him if he saw anything, and he says,
Yes, the righteous Lazarus, who is so effective against those monsters down there. And didn't help save my leg, did it? Look, I'll give you a free piece of advice. Ask Farnham. He was there.
We pity Wirt and his lost leg, and also didn't want Farnham to have to relive the horrors of what Lazarus put him through, especially as our last conversation went so poorly.
Griswold? Good old Griswold. I love him like a brother. We fought together, you know, back when we... Lazarus!
But we must save our brother and press him, to which he fitfully blathers.
They stab, then bite, then they're all around you. Liar! Liar! They're all dead. Dead! Do you hear me? They just keep falling and falling. The blood's spilling out all over the floor. All his fault.
We then rest a hand on poor Farnham's shoulder and console him, heading next to the healer Pepin about the fallen Archbishop, who recalls.
I was shocked when I heard of what the townspeople were planning to do that night. I thought that of all people, Lazarus would have had more sense than that. He was an archbishop and always seemed to care so much for the townsfolk of Tristram. So many were injured, I could not save them all.
Perhaps Lazarus did once care, but that time has passed. It's then we see Ogden, who saunters over, hearing our conversation, and shares.
Lazarus was the archbishop who led many of the townspeople into the labyrinth. I lost many good friends that day, and Lazarus never returned. I suppose he was killed along with most of the others. If you would do me a favor, good master, please do not talk to Farnham about that day.
Damn, we're a little bit late on that one. we turn to see Jillian the barmaid, who is now loitering out front of the Tavern of the Rising Sun. She seems restless, and upon our approach, she remembers.
I remember Lazarus as being a very kind and giving man. He spoke at my mother's funeral and was supportive of my grandmother and myself in a very troubled time. I pray every night that somehow he is still alive and safe.
It seems Lazarus may have been one of the first to be corrupted by the Lord of Terror. We then seek out the resident demonologist Adria the Witch by her hut, and she confirms our suspicions.
I did not know this Lazarus of whom you speak, but I do sense a great conflict within his being. He poses a grave danger and will stop at nothing to serve the powers of darkness which have claimed him as theirs.
Although, on some level, we pity Lazarus, we cannot, however, forgive his transgressions if he's harmed our younger sibling. And so, cursing his name under our breath, we head back down to hell once more. A stone's throw from Lazarus's staff stand, we're assaulted by a gaggle of azure drakes, accompanied by their fanatic variants, who are greatly empowered by the darkness of hell. We then realize that Diablo has sent some of his strongest forces to guard a crimson portal beside a sign of the Lord of Terror's power, a great pentagram on the ground, no doubt sending his minions into a frenzy. Guarding the portal is a score of balrogs and drakes and other enemies that force us to dive through the gateway to the unknown realm beyond. We cross through the portal and into a room that is awash with a red hue as fire burns, yet seems to be oddly familiar, as if part of the cathedral next to town and not a part of hell itself. We leave the room and are hit with a red blood star from a winged hellspawn. We chase her down, but are immediately bombarded with more blood magic from her sisters caged in an eastern room. Heading northwest instead, we see another room full of succubi that parallels the eastern counterpart. Following the red missiles down the hall, we see on the walls statues of the fallen King Leoric, confirming this is no longer hell, but some form of old area of worship attached to the cathedral. Stalking the hellspawn into the southern room, we are ambushed by more succubi and unholy super unique mages known as advocates. Flying fireballs and flash spells hit us when we dare to breach the gap and encounter them toe to toe as they teleport to and fro.
Not enough mana.
After defeating the mages, we see a vile tome above a pentagram and read it, but are immediately transported to the northwestern room full of succubi. Contending with the lusty demons, we're left to rinse, repeat on the other side of the building, nearly swarmed by the torrents of blood magic and evil harpies trying to fell us before we can make our way to the accursed Archbishop. Exhausted from hacking through droves of fiends, we move to exit the building the way we came, but are instead transported into the heart of the lair of the lecherous Lazarus himself and realize this is his seat of power.
Abandon your foolish quest. All that awaits you is the wrath of my master. You are too late to save the child. Now you will join him.
Thoroughly taunted and nearly torn asunder from torrents of magics engulfing us from all sides, we retreat to the eastern room. With no time to check the identity of the dead sacrificed boy on his altar, we believe we're too late and cast a town portal to escape, but realize this may be our only chance to contend with the cowardly Lazarus and make him pay. Instead of fleeing, we turn heel and dart back and forth, hacking the legs from under the succubi bit by bit, evening the playing field. Lazarus, sensing our plan, blocks our path with multiple firewalls, the blaze rising like the fires of hell itself. The Archbishop then attempts to pin us in the western room where we take shelter, but we surprise him with a scroll of frozen orb that throws him off balance and allows us to make a last-minute escape. Once again, we single out the Scarlet Witches and take out an errant councilman in our stride. The succubi then scatter, and we hunt the black and white pigmented Black Jade, who is lightning and arcane enchanted, and cunningly she leads us right back into the fray, lightning spewing from her hide whenever we manage to land a blow. However, she dies in a heap in front of her kin. We then turn our attention to her sister, Red Vex, now fearful of suffering the same fate, and she attempts to cower near the altar with the dead boy sacrificed atop it. Regardless, she falls next in front of the Gothic artwork. Destroying the last of the Hellspawn sisters, we begin our hunt for the fallen priest and scream his name, Lazarus! Bastard! Sensing his presence, we become further enraged and declare,
Time to die.
we round the corner and see Lazarus by the town portal. He vanishes momentarily, and we drive our blade into his abdomen, promising,
Your business ends here, betrayer.
Lazarus, now ash, spills to the floor. He drops some paltry items on his body. We then remember, more importantly, his sacrifice and race back to the altar, thanking the heavens to see it indeed was not our brother Ulbricht. Nonetheless, another poor soul sacrificed to the Lord of Terror himself. We pause to think, with Lazarus dead, we are one step closer to ending this madness. And then we notice a curiosity. A chest that the ex-archbishop seemed to be guarding, and inside is a map to the stars? We stash the map in our inventory, heading back to the newly identified Herodric scholar Deckard Cain, as it's no doubt a vital clue on our reckoning with Diablo himself. This is the story of Map of the Stars, and the quest's original appearance slated for Diablo 1, which was cut from the final game due to it profoundly changing how players experienced facing the Lord of Terror, Diablo, entirely. The quest can be initiated by entering Hell level 16 and entering the portal to the Unholy Altar. After we have learned of the treachery of the Archbishop Lazarus, so with his staff in hand, we head into his lair.
Abandon your foolish quest. All that awaits you is the wrath of my master. You are too late to save the child. Now you will join him.
Face, fight, and fell the Archbishop Lazarus.
Madness ends here, betrayer.
We can open a large chest in the corner of the room in which we fight him and pick up the Map of the Stars. And it initiates the quest. Looking at the map, it shows a sun in the sky and some type of lunar or star cycle. To learn more, we head to Deckard Cain in town. Upon showing him the map, he says,
Your story is quite grim, my friend. Lazarus will surely burn in hell for his horrific deed. The boy that you describe is not our prince, but I believe that Ulbricht may yet be in danger. The symbol of power that you speak of must be a portal in the very heart of the labyrinth. Know this, my friend. The evil that you move against is the Dark Lord of Terror. He is known to mortal men as Diablo. It was he who was imprisoned within the labyrinth many centuries ago, and I fear that he seeks to once again sow chaos in the realm of mankind. You must venture through the portal and destroy Diablo before it is too late. Our time is running short. I sense his dark power building and only you can stop him from attaining his full might.
Although Ulbricht is not the boy we saw on Lazarus's altar, we now have confirmed to face the Lord of Terror himself, Diablo. To make matters much worse, we have unwittingly started the quest, the Lost Stars, in tandem. Not only do we have to defeat Diablo, but something foreboding, it seems, is set to transpire. Trying to somewhat hurriedly get perspective, we head to Griswold, who informs us.
I've never seen a map of this sort before. Where'd you get it? Ugh, although I have no idea how to read this, Cain or Adria may be able to provide the answers that you seek.
So, we have a second lead. Adria the witch, and her wisdom may help us before we head out of town. But first we speak to Farnham, perhaps one last time, for his guidance, to which he bemuses.
Listen here. Come close. I don't know if you know what I know, but you have really got something here. That's a map.
My God, that was insightful. We will miss you, Farnham. But there's no time to reminisce, so we head to Pepin, who says,
I can't make much of the writing on this map, but perhaps Adria or Cain could help you decipher what this refers to. I can see that it is a map of the stars in our sky, but any more than that is beyond my talents.
Again, it seems like Adria may be our best bet, but what of the map of the stars? Maybe the moons will align like some old ritual? Hopping over yonder to Wirt first, he says.
I've been looking for a map, but that certainly isn't it. You should show that to Adria. She can probably tell you what it is. I'll say one thing. It looks old, and old usually means valuable.
Ah, a great reference to Wirt's own lost treasure quest we just completed. Speaking of old and valuable, let's try Jillian's grandmother to see if her visions can help.
The best person to ask about that sort of thing would be our storyteller. Cain is very knowledgeable about ancient writings, and that is easily the oldest-looking piece of paper that I have ever seen.
It seems everyone is palming this off to Cain, rightfully so, a fabled Herodrum dealing with an old, unreadable map. Yet, we should also seek out Adria. As we head over to her shack, we spy Ogden, the tavern owner, in the light of his door, and briefly approach him to say,
If the witch can't help you and suggests that you see Cain, what makes you think that I would know anything? It sounds like this is a very serious matter. You should hurry along and see the storyteller, as Adria suggests.
It sounds like I was meant to see Adria first to piece this one together, but Diablo is always fun how they jump around with the narrative. Regardless, we see Adria one last time at a shack beyond the border of town to help us decipher this map.
Oh, I'm afraid this does not bode well at all. This map of the stars portends great disaster, but its secrets are not mine to tell. The time has come for you to have a very serious conversation with the storyteller.
Well, that honestly wasn't very helpful. It seems like Cain was our best bet, so we know what we have to do already. Kill Diablo. Heading down beneath the pentagram near the Unholy Altars portal in Terra's Domain. In the north room of Terra's Domain, if we step on 4 stones, we face Doom Lord Gamar.
Give me a sacrifice.
But beware, killing him quickly is crucial, as he will literally overrun the entire lair with his spawned demons if left unchecked. When he is defeated, the East Room opens and we face the uber-strong Bloodlord the Destroyer. When he is defeated, the West Room opens and we face the mage Benedict the Black. Here in the West Room, if you touch the 3 crucified skeletons, the South Room opens and you can finally face the Lord of Terror, Diablo. However, upon entering Terra's Domain, if you fail to kill Diablo before 1 hour passes, your map of the stars shows the stars align and turn red, and Diablo is shown in a cutscene to power up. We hastily head back to town to speak to Cain, who gives us some grave news.
I am sure that you tried your best, but I fear that even your strength and will may not be enough. Diablo is now at the height of his earthly power, and you will need all your courage and strength to defeat him. May the light protect and guide you, my friend. I will help in any way that I am able.
Facing Diablo at this stage makes him almost impossible to beat, and he will gleefully stomp you and claw at your corpse for fun. This is the crux of the Map of the Stars. Basically, he has an enraged timer on top of the usual Diablo quest if you pick it up. However, restarting a game also resets the timer. We can fight our way again through Terror's domain and finally slay the Lord of Terror. Instead of the ending cinematic that we get in the vanilla game, you can now loot Diablo, a nice touch thanks to the Beelzebub mod linked in the description, as well as see Ulbrecht's macabre corpse. And if you pick up the Soul Stone and use it, it will end the game and initiate the cinematics, resetting Diablo afterwards. And the Map of the Stars countdown also resets, hence why it was initially removed, as it profoundly changed how players would encounter the end game of Diablo. But what did you think? Would you prefer to leave it in or take it out, as it forces you to rush through the end game and face Diablo, otherwise basically get stomped? Also, this is the final episode of cut content for Diablo. I just want to say thank you so much for watching. I appreciate all of your comments with your profound insights into the game, and also how much you have been appreciative of this series. It really is heartwarming and makes me want to make so much more content. I am currently hunting for more content based on Diablo and other RPGs in a similar style, so I can maintain a consistent upload. So if you have any suggestions, let me know. Make sure to like and subscribe and hit the bell notification to stay up to date with the posts, and many thanks for making this series an absolute joy to play. As always, thanks for watching, and until next time, Wanderer.
The Soul Stone burns with hell fire as an eerie red glow blurs your vision. Fresh blood flows into your eyes, and you begin to hear the tormented whispers of the damned. You have done what you knew must be done. The essence of Diablo is contained. For now. You pray that you have become strong enough to contain the demon and keep him at bay. Although you have been fortified by your quest, you can still feel him, clawing his way up from the dark recesses of your soul. Fighting to retain control, your thoughts turn toward the ancient mystic lands of the Far East. Perhaps there, beyond the desolate wastes of Aranok, you will find an answer. Or perhaps salvation.